The meeting will come to order. The next public hearing is Islamic Seminary, Inc., SP 2020-SP-040. Would a representative of the applicant please come down and introduce yourself and reaffirm the affidavit?
Hi, my name is John Manganello. I'm president of Land Development Consultants and the agent for the applicant, and I reaffirm the affidavit dated February 14th, 2022.
Thank you. Everyone that's planning on speaking to this case, if you'd please stand and raise your right hand and face the clerk and take the oath. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Do you swear or affirm that your testimonies will be the truth under penalty of the law?
Thank you. Let me make a disclosure on this case. The law firm of Hart and Horan PC had one case in the last 2 years where we since have substituted out, but while we were in that case, the client had hired Mr. Manganello's firm as a consultant. We have no business or financial relationship. I don't believe that my involvement or his involvement in that other case, which is unrelated to this application, would affect my ability, to participate in this case, but I will make that disclosure. At this time, we will have the staff, or any other disclosures from the board. Oh, and for the benefit of the audience, we do have a quorum, and we have loudspeakers and television monitors in the back. So if Mr. Amanoff has stepped out for a moment, that doesn't mean he's not participating. We will have a staff report. Mr. McCadden.
Good morning, Mr. Vice Chairman and members of the board. I'm Brandon McCadden from the Department of Planning and Development. The applicant requests special permit approval for a place of worship on a 6.65 acre assemblage of land. The site is in the northwest quadrant of the intersection of Fairfax County Parkway and Braddock Road. Lot 24 is characterized by dense deciduous trees and undergrowth. Lots 22 and 23 each contain a single-family dwelling and detached garage. All 3 lots are zoned RC. These are the existing conditions on Lot 24 near the proposed location of the mosque. The principal structure will be 24,357 square foot mosque in the northeast corner of the site. It will be 60 feet tall with 4 80-foot tall minarets. The exterior will be predominantly brick, stone, tile, or similar masonry with glass windows. The ground floor will include a prayer hall, lecture rooms, classrooms, offices, and restrooms. The basement will include a multi-purpose hall, classroom, library, kitchenette, and restrooms. The dwelling on Lot 22, measuring 2,215 square feet, and a detached garage measuring 853 square feet, will remain and be converted to Activity Building Number 1. The dwelling on Lot 23 will be demolished, and the detached garage measuring 985 square feet will remain and be converted to Activity Building Number 2. The 4 proposed buildings total 28,410 square feet in gross floor area, which equals a floor area ratio of 0.098, just below the maximum of 1.0 permitted in the RC district. This excerpt from the special permit plat shows the location of the proposed structures. The mosque was sited in the northeast corner of the property closest to the parkway to maximize the distance from surrounding dwellings. The subject property will be partially screened by the existing mature vegetation and proposed supplemental plantings. Staff believes the layout of the proposed improvements along with the transitional screening will reduce the prominence of the mosque and minarets. The respective heights of the activity buildings at 14 feet and 16 feet tall are harmonious with the residential dwellings on adjacent properties. The sole access to the site is from Braddock Road, which is a minor arterial capable of handling large traffic volume. Green building practices have been included, such as a vegetative roof, LED site lighting, and electric vehicle charging stations. In terms of land use, intensity, design, and open space, staff finds that the proposal is in harmony with the land use recommendations for special permit uses in the Occoquan Reservoir watershed. And this slide shows an overview of the proposed operations for the site. The mosque will have 450 worshipers. The staff will include 2 imams and 3 support staff. The hours of operation will be Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 10 p.m., and Saturday and Sunday from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. An underground detention system with a capacity of 14,823 square feet will be located beneath the parking area, as well as the green roof previously mentioned. The site is not served by public water. 2 existing wells will be preserved, and a 3rd well may be added to supply the mosque's domestic water demand. The 3rd well is proposed south of the mosque, adjacent to the parking area. The property is served by a public sanitary sewer force main, and the 2 existing grinder pump stations will be maintained, and the applicant proposes a 3rd station if necessary. The final design of the water and wastewater infrastructure will be subject to review and approval by the Health Department and Land Development Services at the time of site plan. Regarding open space, the comprehensive plan policy for applications in the RC district is to provide a minimum of 50% undisturbed open space. And the applicant proposes to meet this by providing exactly 50% undisturbed open space. The applicant has minimized the amount of on-site parking and configured the improvements to preserve continuous areas of open space throughout the site, as shown in this plan. The application will exceed the 10-year tree canopy and the interior parking lot landscaping requirements. Given the adjacent residential land uses, the ordinance requires type 1 transitional screening of at least 25 feet along all lot lines. However, given the significant areas of undisturbed wooden open space to be preserved to the north and west, and at the site abuts the Fairfax County Parkway to the east, the applicant requests to modify the screening requirements along several lot lines. The existing vegetation consists of matured deciduous trees and underbrush, and the proposed supplemental plantings consisting of deciduous trees, evergreen trees, and shrubs will be at least 25 feet wide and allow the preservation of existing on-site vegetation. The applicant proposes new or existing chain link fencing in buffer areas A, B, D, E, and F, as indicated on sheet 7 of the special permit plat. A chain link fence at least 42 inches in height is a permitted barrier type for a place of worship when adjacent use is an attached single-family dwelling. The applicant does request a waiver of the barrier requirement in buffer area C that fronts Braddock Road, and staff supports this request because the mosque has been intentionally set back approximately 400 feet from the front lot line, and the existing vegetation and proposed supplemental plantings will further screen the proposed structures. VDOT classifies a section of Braddock Road fronting the property as a minor arterial, and the site is located on the north side of the roadway, and the proposed driveway is on westbound Braddock Road, will serve as the sole access point. A landscape median separates eastbound and westbound Braddock Road that will prevent left turns out of the site and left turns into the site. A proposed traffic island at the entrance will only permit right in and right out traffic movements. The proposed right turn lane between Fairfax County Parkway and the southbound off-ramp of the Fairfax County Parkway in the site entrance will provide an approximately 150-foot-long dedicated area for vehicles to decelerate before entering the site. VDOT has approved an access management exception to decrease the space between the parkway off-ramp and the proposed site entrance. And staff has proposed development conditions requiring a yield sign be erected at the Fairfax County Parkway off-ramp to minimize traffic conflicts between traffic exiting the parkway and westbound Braddock Road traffic entering the site. The traffic signal at the intersection of the Fairfax County Parkway and southbound off-ramp of Braddock Road will create breaks in traffic to facilitate egress from the site. Vehicles desiring to access eastbound Braddock Road will have to travel west past the unsignalized Ruby Drive intersection. The next intersection with Willow Springs School Road is signalized, and vehicles are permitted to make a U-turn onto eastbound Braddock Road. The applicant estimates the maximum expected trip generation will be 605 vehicles per day, and the peak hour of trip generation will occur Friday afternoons with an estimated 324 vehicle trips per hour, and several other places of worship exist in a 1-mile radius of the site on Braddock Road. The non-overlapping peak hours of the mosque and surrounding places of worship will disperse vehicle traffic over a broader time period, preventing potential conflicts. The mosque is required to have a minimum of 113 parking spaces based on a capacity of 450 worshipers, and the applicant proposes to provide 114 spaces. It's staff's opinion that the parking is adequate to serve the place of worship given the number of worshipers and the applicant's effort to preserve open space on the site. Staff has proposed a development condition requiring parking to occur only on-site and prohibits visitors from parking on surrounding residential streets. Staff has also proposed a development condition requiring the applicant to develop a parking plan to manage overflow parking during holiday special events and other times when additional parking is needed. In staff's opinion, the layout of the development, site access, transitional screening, and stormwater management have been designed to mitigate negative impacts to surrounding properties with the imposition of the proposed development conditions. Accordingly, staff finds that the application meets the requirements of the zoning ordinance and is consistent with the comprehensive plan. For these reasons, staff recommends approval, subject to the proposed development conditions in Appendix 1 of the staff report. And Jeff Edmondson and Michelle Guthrie from FCDOT are available to answer questions as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions of staff? Ms. Bella.
Thank you. I have several questions for the staff, some of which I recognize, may be more appropriate for the applicant. So I'd like to frame my questions. I'd like to get some more information from the staff about several items to help determine whether or not the access will work, whether or not this adversely impacts the character of the area, and in particular mitigating impacts to water quality and stormwater management. So to kick this off, I wanted to ask, what are the current intersection ratings at Braddock Road and Willow Springs School Road, where the turnaround is ultimately supposed to be? And then what is the current intersection rating at Ruby Drive, where there will be no U-turn allowed?
Yeah, this is Brandon McCatton, Zoning Evaluation Division. We do have several members from FCDOT, so I will defer to them to provide those statistics for those specific intersections.
Thank you.
Good morning, Board Member Ballo and members of the board. Your first question for Braddock Road.
For the record, please, you have to identify
Thank you.
yourself.
Sorry. Jeff Edmondson, FCDOT, speaking to Ms. Ballo's questions. You're interested in the current ratings for Braddock Road and Willow Springs Road. The applicant performed a traffic analysis and provided 2020 existing ratings for that intersection in the Friday midday, Saturday peak hour, and Sunday peak hour. For Friday, it is a B. For Saturday, it is an A. And for Sunday, it is an A. In the 2023 future build-out plus improvements, so complete conditions when the mosque would be in place. For Friday, it is a C. For Saturday, it is a B. And for Sunday, it is a B.
Thank you. Can you detail, obviously, the C is still passing, but I'm curious, is it just the traffic volume from the mosque? Is it just overall projected traffic volume in the area that leads to that slight downgrading at that intersection? Can you help me understand that?
Yes, most significantly, it would be the growth that is projected from 2020 to 2023 that increases that B to a C. The mosque does contribute, but it is a smaller portion than the overall growth, which I believe is 2% a year.
Thank you. Did they perform a similar traffic analysis to find out the current intersection rating at Ruby Drive and Braddock Road?
Yes, 1 second. Braddock and Ruby, again, we have Friday midday, Saturday peak, Sunday peak, 2020 existing conditions for Ruby and Braddock. The southbound approach, Ruby and Braddock 2020 existing, is an F. The Saturday peak is an F, and the Sunday is a C. The 2023 future for Friday is a F, Sunday is an F, and Saturday is an F, Sunday is an E.
Does Fairfax County have any master plan recommendations or any other planned improvements to the Ruby Drive intersection separate from this project? Anything else master planned or in the CIP that would help with these conditions?
I do not believe so.
Okay. Thank you. I have additional questions, if I may, regarding water quality, water and stormwater management. In terms of the well, there are the 2 existing wells on site, and then on page 10 of the staff report, which is 311 of our board book, talks about a 3rd may be drilled, I believe, if necessary. And then looking, further in the board book at some of the comments from the staff and then the responses from the applicant about the groundwater. There was a comment on, discussion on page 354 and then 355 of our board book that talks about this area has a high groundwater table, so the shallow groundwater elevation. Could the staff explain under what circumstances, like why wouldn't a third well just be required at the outset, considering the size of this facility and the 2 wells that are there on the site were dug for those single family houses? Why is this something we would leave to site plan? And then further, and I know this is a lot, and then if further, what additional information would be provided at the time of site plan regarding potential third well? Can we have a discussion about that? If you help me understand that.
Sure. Ms. Bello, this is Brent Krasner. I'll defer ultimately to the applicant on any projections they've done on the need for that. Typically, the formal health, I guess the reason we say it's deferred to, or it's decided at site plan, that's when the final health department approval would come. I don't know if the applicant, and I'm sure they have done some preliminary analysis of the current yields of those wells and whether or not based on the projection of what they're going to use. I guess I'll have to defer to them. Typically the decision is made at site plan, and they've indicated they have the capacity here that the well, if they need to drill the third well, the land can support it. But as far as requiring that now, I would defer to the applicant if they have any more information they can provide in regards to that at this time.
Great, thank you. I'll ask the same question of the applicant when that time comes. I just had one final question about stormwater management, and I understand that some of the existing structures will be maintained as activity centers or for activity uses on site, and one single family house will be demolished. In terms of the calculations for stormwater management and what is being mitigated on site, because it is a requirement to mitigate the impacts to water quality in the Occoquan Reservoir area, are the existing buildings being mitigated as part of the stormwater management plan? Has their impervious service calculations of their roofs and of their associated hardscape, has that been factored into the stormwater management for mitigation?
Yes, this is Brandon McCadden, zoning evaluation. I believe, yes, that the site was looked at holistically as all 3 parcels combined. So the supporting stormwater management calculations and narratives in the special permit plat reflect the site as a whole and take into account the 2 existing dwellings on the site as well as the proposed mosque on the 3rd lot. But again, I'll defer to the applicant. They may have more specific methodology for their stormwater calculations.
And the whole property, the whole property grades, towards the east. So I'll let Mr. Manganello respond to if they've sized the detention. But everything that's now falling, and draining off of those residential properties would appear to would find its way into the parking lot and then into the stormwater system that's being proposed here. But I'll let Mr. Manganello confirm that. I don't see like an underground pipe, but I don't know if it's going to, surface flow into that area. I'll let Mr. Manganello comment on that. There is like an existing swale that kind of exists on the northern part of the residential property that kind of finds its way, again, into that system that they're proposing to build. So it would appear that, again, it is being treated. But as far as the exact calculations, I'll let Mr. Manganello confirm that those areas were included. Those are existing impervious, but they should have been factored into the calculation.
All right. Thank you. I will ask those questions of the applicant when we get to that part. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I have a few questions, if I may. Mr. McCadden or Mr. Krasner, if you look at the tax map, we have page 288 of 616.
I don't know if we have the parcel map. I don't think we have the tax map in the presentation. We could.
Well, there's a blue line, and it looks like a stream bisecting lots 22 and 24, and then I assume it's sort of crossing the parkway, and then it ties into another stream on the east side of the parkway, if I'm reading this right, is there a stream crossing this property? Is it a mapped stream in the county system, and are there some regulations for that? I mean, it looks like on the drawings, if I'm understanding what's happening, they're going to be piping, whatever that is, it's going to be piped, and we haven't done a lot of that. I thought they were trying to open things up instead of pipe them. What's going on with that blue line?
Mr. Hart, this is Brent Krasner. It's not a perennial. There's like an intermittent. There's essentially on the county GIS layer, it's shown as an intermittent stream, meaning it's not perennial, so it doesn't again trigger the RPA or floodplain or issues of that nature. So again, as an intermittent stream, I think it's permissible to as part of the stormwater system, channel the water that again during today naturally flows in that channel. But again, it's many times of the year it's dry. I mean, you can see in the aerial photo, you can see the evidence of that on that property on the residential property to the north. You can see kind of like the existing natural swale that feeds into that. So I believe the county GIS layer is picking up on that, but it's an intermittent stream. It's not perennial, so it's not part of again the resource protection area regulations. That also, again, incidentally, I don't know if you were going to ask this question as well. I think one of the neighbors mentioned in their comments that, again, it shows up on, the county has a potential wetlands GIS layer, and it's picking up some potential issues on that property from that same feature. Again, it's probably picking up hydric soils and things of that nature. So again, I'll let Mr. Manganello explain how they've accommodating that, and if they've done any analysis as far as the presence of any wetlands. That was the one question that I would defer to Mr. Manganello to just clarify on the record.
Well, that was kind of my next question anyway, because I remember the case a couple months ago down at the next exit, and what I thought happened on that was it was kind of the same drill. It's like it was not a perennial stream. It was an intermittent stream, but then the deeper we got into it, it seemed like maybe there actually were some wetlands, and we had to do something about that. And what I wondered is, whatever this is, it seems awfully similar to the last go-round with the one on Pope's Head Road at the Parkway.
The difference is
there wetlands? Is there wetlands here?
Right. The difference on that side actually had like formally mapped wetlands. This site, it has, again, the county developed a GIS layer that kind of shows the potential for wetlands based on hydric soils and a low slope, low grade, essentially a flat area with hydric soils. It tends to overstate the actual wetlands, which may be on site. That's something that ultimately, at the time of site plan, they would need to determine if there's some type of isolated wetlands that could be subject to the Army Corps permitting process. In any event, it would, it's isolated. But I'll also ask Mr. Manganello to
who decides that, or is there some objective reference at this point? Because it seemed to me, on the other case, whatever it was, when the dust settled, there was a small area of wetlands, or maybe there were two.
Yeah.
And how do we objectively know? And then on this case, it seems like what that area is partly now, it's not only piping the channel, whatever it is, there's a parking lot over it. And I don't think we did that on the other one. I think we tried to do a swale or something. What happened? Who decides if this is a wetlands or not? How would we know?
The applicant will be required, because that layer showing the potential here, not the existence, but the potential, the applicant will be required to do a wetlands delineation. And I don't know if they've done any preliminary work in that area now, but they will have to do a wetlands delineation to determine conclusively whether or not there is. And if there is, and then it's whether or not it falls under the Army Corps permitting process. And similar to that case, if there's any disturbance, there's a process for credits to offset any potential disturbance to those areas.
Well,
Again,
procedurally, what's the difference between the other case and this one? It seemed like we were further
well,
along.
The only difference, the only significant difference is the fact that that site actually did have mapped wetlands. The county had already identified the presence of wetlands on that property. On this
Can we
one,
look at the same map for this property and say yes or no, or it's just, it raises
Well,
it as a possibility?
it doesn't, right, the map, and it's that same layer, I don't have it here in the presentation. It's in the neighbor that submitted testimony, like, I think includes an image that it's from that layer that shows like.
Well, I saw the letter, but I didn't understand
Yeah,
it.
and so that's showing that there's the potential, again, based on soil conditions and a low, and a flat grade, that there could be. It requires a field analysis or delineation to determine if there are and how, if they are, and if there is, the extent to it, and then the extent of the disturbance that may, that it's proposed to that area. I mean,
Where
just like
did we look to get the other information on the other one?
Well, in that case, again, we knew that the county layer had identified it as a wetlands area, and I believe we required the applicant to do the delineation at that time. I believe they did some preliminary analysis. I would again ask Mr. Manganello if he's done any of that work yet, if he has any other information to share with regards to that. I mean, just like the other case, though, it's not in an RPA, it's not part of a perennial stream, so it's not regulated by the county in the same way. Again,
But somehow we ended up with wetlands at Army Corps.
we did, because the applicant had confirmed that there were indeed wetlands on the property. In this case, I guess that's the question, and perhaps Mr. Manganello can share more information in regards to that, if they've done any preliminary analysis. If not, that's something that the board wanted to have a conclusive answer, whether or not it was going to be an Army Corps permitting and potential, disturbance was going to occur. That would be a question to pose to the applicant to provide that information now as opposed to at site plan. So that would be a decision for the board to make if they would like more information than the applicant's currently provided at that, as far as that goes.
It's a very challenging site, and much of what's left is going to be sites like this. There's sort of along exit ramps and streams going through it, and wherever you put something, it's in the way of something else. What I don't totally understand on this one, we're at 50% undisturbed, but is that subject to further diminution for utility connections or grading or something? It seemed like the graphic I saw, that was sort of the upper left was undisturbed in a rectangle, and then there was sort of a green collar or perimeter around the edges. But is that also the undisturbed, and isn't that going to get all graded out for something or other? And are we really at 50% is what I'm asking? Is the 50% vulnerable to all kinds of things?
This is Brandon McCadden, Zoning Evaluation Division. The 50% undisturbed open space is a comprehensive plan recommendation for developments in the RC district. And in this application, the final condition of the site, it will be 50% undisturbed open space after all improvements have been made to the site. So the intent is that once construction is completed, all the uses and structures have been established, there will be 50% undisturbed open space remaining at that point.
I understood that. Can we go back to your slide that had that in green? I thought you had a slide in the thing. Yeah, that rectangle in the upper left, that can't be 50%. So I thought, well, maybe that counts the little sort of ring of darker green. And is that, am I misunderstanding what the 50% is?
So this is a copy of the landscape plan. The location in the upper left is open space, undisturbed open space. That kind of rectangle there will not be disturbed. The green outline is the proposed transitional screening. And this is more of an approximation. It does not include, it does not say that everything that's not either green or highlighted will be developed. This was just to show the location of the largest portion of undisturbed open space as well as the
Right,
proposed
because some of that
transitional
area,
screening.
just to interject, you see the limits of disturbance, which is kind of, going around that northern part of the building, that curvilinear line. There's undisturbed open space in there. The applicant's asking for a modification along some of those property lines to maintain existing vegetation. So there is undisturbed open space that is outside of that rectangle. That's the largest chunk of it, but then there are other parts that are on the site that are being left undisturbed to attain the 50% recommendation.
Was there any analysis of potential for threatened species on the site? And I thought the one that's just down the parkway, the next exit, I think, we had discussions about bats and turtles and something. Does any of that pertain to this location also, or has that question been asked?
I mean, I recall the discussion and the analysis that was the applicant provided on the other site, because it was raised, I believe, by some neighbors in regards to that. I mean, the county, again, doesn't specifically regulate under the zoning process habitat. I mean, as part of the RC recommendations, which are primarily driven at water quality, I mean, undisturbed woodlands also provide habitat for a number of species, as far as, you know, the endangered species or some of the critical ones that were identified on that other site. I do not believe that the applicants provided that kind of analysis. The county doesn't typically require that. It was raised on that site by a neighbor, and so the applicant provided an analysis which confirmed they did not have any endangered species, but it's not something that the county typically requires of an applicant through a zoning process.
Okay, let me ask about transportation. I'm assuming that whatever access is allowable, nothing, it can't be to the exit ramp from the parkway. It's got to just be Braddock Road, and it's got to be basically as far away from the exit as possible.
Yes, this is Brandon McCadden, Zoning Evaluation Division. There will be a single point of access directly onto Braddock Road, and the way the site access was determined after multiple back and forths with the applicant was to push it as far west as possible to create the maximum amount of distance between the entrance and the Fairfax County Parkway southbound off-ramp. I believe VDOT typically requires a separation of 750 feet, but they did approve an access management exception, reducing it down to, I believe it's 370 feet between the access point on Braddock Road and the off-ramp from the parkway, and that is included as an appendix to the staff report, the approved access management exception from VDOT.
Is it anticipated that most of the traffic to this site would be coming from the parkway and then going back to the parkway?
I believe that is the understanding. Again, I think it's a relatively small congregation at this point, so there may be some uncertainty of, as it grows, where the worshipers will come from. The applicant may be able to provide some forecast for that, but the parkway will most likely be the largest contributor to sites accessing the property.
Well, this part's a little confusing also, because it seemed to me that you can come off the parkway and go in, but getting back to the parkway, you have to drive, I guess, 3 intersections west, or with the signage, it's going to be some distance to the west. It's not even on the tax map, and make a U-turn down the road and come back to the parkway. And what I thought was some people instead would either make an illegal U-turn, or they'll turn right into the neighborhood and turn around someone's driveway, or they'll go around the block, this first little block, and then make a left turn at Ruby or Sasher, whichever it is, and they're not making a U-turn. They make a right in, go around the block, and then make a left turn out, and that would be much faster than driving, 3 blocks west and waiting and making a U-turn, unless I'm missing something.
I'll defer to Mr. Edmondson here. Maybe he can provide some more information, more technical information. I mean, staff worked extensively with the applicant Fairfax DOT and the Virginia Department of Transportation on, the issue of the U-turn and the signage. And I believe Willow is, I think, the nearest signalized intersection where safe U-turns can be made. But maybe Mr. Edmondson can explain how we arrived at that configuration.
Please.
Jeff Edmondson, FC. What you described is correct. We noticed that the entrance would be close to the intersection with Ruby, Topaz, and Braddock, and it would be difficult for congregants egressing the site to cross as well as then make U-turns at that unsignalized intersection. And about a quarter of a mile to the west is Willow Springs. It is signalized. It has a left turn lane. However, there's no southern leg, so that left turn lane essentially just turns into a single residence house, and it would provide, ideal U-turn scenario. There's no other left turns there.
No, I'm not questioning the safety of the U-turns at Willow. What I'm wondering about is the impatience of drivers that don't want to drive that far away to go back toward the parkway. And I thought that it seems shorter and faster if they come out of here, they turn right on, I got to enlarge it, Sasher, turn left on Anderson Avenue, come back out and make a left. Why wouldn't they do that? Is that appropriate? It seems like that would be faster than, driving halfway to Centerville and come back the other way.
Jeff Edmondson, FC.
Maybe we don't care. Maybe that's okay. But it seems like people are going to go the shortest, fastest way.
I would expect that they'll find that once they make the circuitous route around the neighborhood and then trying to make the left across Braddock, that it'll end up taking more time than if they went to the signalized intersection.
What's to prevent someone from disobeying the signage? If they're frustrated and they're in a hurry, they're just going to make a U-turn if everyone else is turning left, aren't they?
And you're questioning the enforceability?
Well, partly.
Yeah. I imagine the enforceability of something like that would be driven upon complaints. I wouldn't expect, I think we assume people would not make illegal U-turns if there's signage that's prohibiting that.
Right, and staff has to, proceed on assuming people will follow the law. Just like any other traffic control device. There may be some
places, yes, and
there may
other
be some
places.
small fraction of people that ignore that. It's hard. Staff tried to set up what's the safest way for people to make that movement and come back around. There are many properties that are affected by the median and have to make U-turns to get back to the parkway, and a lot of the properties on the westbound side.
Where would the sign go? If you had that thing up, it looks like there's like two places. Is that Ruby or Sasher?
Yep, so the sign would be located, if you can see in this photo, there's this small concrete median with the kind of the box truck behind it. It's my understanding the no U-turn sign would be located towards the end of that concrete median, as you can see kind of in the center of the photo.
Is that Ruby or Sasher?
This is Ruby.
Well, why wouldn't someone just make a U-turn at Sasher?
There's no median break there.
There's no median break at Sasher. It has to be Ruby.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so the sign would be on the median strip there saying no U-turn?
That is correct.
Why wouldn't someone just turn left and kind of loop around in that little stub and come back?
I guess it's possible they could make any traffic movement anywhere. It's a possibility, but as Mr. Krasner mentioned, one of the assumptions that people will, follow traffic laws as posted. But they're
well, obviously, but we're trying to decide sometimes: is it appropriate to put a new use? Practically, it's on an exit ramp almost, or mostly it is on an exit ramp, where you can't really turn left to get back to where most of the cars are going to go, and we're trying to rationalize it or make it safe, and I'm just in the slow group.
This is, again, we're on an arterial road, a 4-lane arterial roadway. So, people, the fact is, the matter is that the traffic, we hope they'll make a legal U-turn where it's safest, but again, we're not talking about people making a U-turn Where if this was on a smaller neighborhood street, I understand the comment about people kind of circling through the neighborhood to try to make like a 3-point turn or something. But I think, as Mr. Edmondson said, that's probably less likely because it's just not very fast to go that way. So we're hoping people will follow, will obey the traffic laws, but just like we hope they obey red lights and stop signs. I mean, but we can't condition that or kind of assume that the majority of people here will do that. So DOT and FDOT and VDOT have laid out a reasonable scenario that will allow people to turn around. I mean, it's a divided highway. We have many divided highways in the county where people need to make U-turns, and that most people look to the first legal spot they can do it, and they do it. Some small minority may, again, do unsafe maneuvers on the roadway, but it's hard for staff to plan for that.
Last question. Maybe we've covered this. This public hearing was deferred 8 or 9 times. And that usually indicates to me that there's some problem or there's some issue in play that isn't quite ready for prime time. And so we're trying to fix it. What was the problem here? Is it the U-turn dilemma, or is it the environmental constraints of the site, or what was causing the delays?
This is Brandon McCadden, Zoning Evaluation Division. The primary drivers for the multiple deferrals, one was regarding access, where staff was adamant that there be a sole access point from Braddock Road and there be no direct access to Sasher Lane, which is a low-volume residential street to the left. So preliminarily, that was one of the stumbling blocks, was designing a site that could be supported by a single access road, or a single access to a minor arterial.
Which needed the VDOT exception.
Yeah, which the access management exception from VDOT, which was granted earlier this year, that took quite a while to be processed and get to a point where VDOT could recommend approval. The second piece was regarding the 50% undisturbed open space, kind of arranging the improvements to achieve that 50% limit. Ultimately, in January of this year, the applicant was able to purchase the third parcel, which is the parcel second back from Braddock Road. And as a result of acquiring that parcel, it added additional land area that was able to increase the undisturbed open space to 50%.
Yeah, that parcel, that was actually probably the most major stumbling block, in the middle of those deferrals. That parcel has an easement, which provides right of access out to Braddock. And without owning that parcel, it was a holdout parcel. The applicant didn't own it initially. There was not an agreement from that property owner, I believe, and the applicant can confirm this on the proposed new layout, which was going to be through the parking lot, which was not an ideal scenario. That's also similar to that other case. But fortunately, the applicant was able to purchase that property, but that took many months before that was resolved.
One more, I'm sorry. How far away is water? Public water? Miles?
I believe so. I'd have to pull up the map of the...
Is the school on public water, maybe?
I'll have to confirm that, Mr. Hart. I don't know. I just don't have that in front of me. I know that the map of the water service area exists. I just don't... I believe it's fairly far from here.
So they're on a well or nothing?
You're on a well out here. There is the grinder system, so they do get...
Well, I knew about that, but...
sewer, but, yeah.
That was different. Okay, thank you.
Mr. Vice Chair?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Balla.
Sorry, did it? No, okay. I just had 2 questions that I thought of while listening to the Vice Chair's questions. Really quickly, how does the county define undisturbed open space for the purposes of these calculations we're looking at for the 50%?
Oh, it's strictly defined as undisturbed open space, so we're including areas that, again, outside the limits of disturbance, that are not being touched. So again, it's and that graphic didn't include all of that. It's any area that is outside the LOD, the limits of disturbance, and so it's purely kept away from any kind of grading, disturbance of any kind. So it's mostly that upper corner, but it's also areas of the rest of the site, and it's delineated. It's shown on the plat. What's included in the calculation.
To that end, I'm going to ask you a few questions again to help me understand this. So I'm looking at page 295 of our board book, where it does have the open space tabulation, areas A through E. Oh, I lost it. Come back. Areas A through E. I can't find area C. Can you help me? I have it, open space area A, that's in the upper left. D is just below that. E is at the entrance. B is over to the southeast side. But where is area C that's called out to be 15,900 square feet?
I'm gonna try to pull up the whole full
Okay.
plat.
I realize this is a very specific question, so it might take you a second to pull it up. Because I can see the buffer area, C1, C2, C3. And I'm just wondering if it's just not labeled in there.
Open space.
Right, I see open area A at the upper left, and then we have D right above the retained buildings. That one where your hand isn't labeled as anything. Is that meant to be C?
That should be C.
That should
The
be
applicant's
C.
nodding his head, that should be C.
That should be C. Okay. And then E we have down there at the entrance, so the LOD is just carving itself out around what's indicated as E, and then the same for area B.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. So in addition to that, when I'm looking at this, it shows that one of the two existing wells, I don't think that, no, it's right outside the parking lot. Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying that. And then the last question, well, no, those are the end of my questions. Thank you.
Mr. Eminoff.
Can you please put up the picture of the Ruby and Braddock Road?
The street level.
Yeah, the street level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just one moment. Okay.
The cones that are on there, they appear to be some sort of project in process there. Would you know what that's in connection with?
This is Brandon McCadden, Zoning Evaluation Division. I believe this photo is about a year old, so I'm not exactly sure. It may be related to the sidewalk there, but I would defer to our FCDOT colleagues. They may have some additional information if any improvements were either recently completed or proposed for the future at this intersection.
This is Jeff Edmondson, FCDOT. I am unaware of any improvement projects, and I've pulled up the capital projects map, and I don't see anything in that area, so I am unaware of what those cones would be related to.
Okay, thank you.
Additional question, Mr. Tanner.
Just a couple quick questions. So development condition 13, you mentioned in the staff report that the applicant's supposed to provide that plan. What does that plan do for off-site parking?
Yes, staff did not attach a specific date to that plan. If the board feels it's necessary, prior to the issuance of a non-RUP or there's some other specific trigger, the condition can be revised to mention that. The applicant, in previous conversations, has already taken some steps to work with nearby places of worship to identify potential locations for overflow parking. They may be able to provide an update on their on the status of their outreach. But if you do feel there is a specific trigger that should be incorporated in that condition, staff would be agreeable to that.
Okay. And one other quick question. Normally for places of worship, there's a development condition that talks about traffic control support during the peak times. If I heard you correctly, the peak time is going to be Friday afternoons, which is probably the busiest time for Braddock and Fairfax County. Was there a reason why that condition was left out this time, or is that something the applicant would be open to?
I mean, I think the reason, and maybe Mr. Edmondson can confirm this, I mean, this is a situation where it's right in, right out. Sometimes we've required that or recommended traffic, some type of on-site, off-duty, police traffic support where people need help making lefts out of a property or things of that nature. I guess in this case, it was felt that because it's right in, right out, that people can exit the site relatively easily without traffic support, but so it wasn't something that came up in our discussions. And unless Mr. Edmondson has a different recollection, that's what I recall.
Thank you.
Further questions of staff? Mr. Amanoff?
One last one. So, I believe there's a mosque at the Braddock and Shirley Gate intersection somewhere in that vicinity. Will this mosque be operating simultaneous with that one, or is it any way connected?
The mosque on Shirley Gate Road, you're talking
Shirley Gate Road.
I don't believe that. I'm not familiar if there's any connection with these two organizations. I imagine they would operate, follow the same general holidays and schedules, but I don't know anything about that particularly.
Okay.
Further questions of staff? All right, Mr. Manganello.
Thank you. The mosque is currently located in Alexandria. They have been there for 20 years, and they've been sharing a building, 5,000 square feet in the lower level and 5,000 square feet above as office use. They've operated there for 20 years without any problems and sharing the parking lot. The current location is just currently too small, and many of the members have been moving west as they have a lot of younger members, and that's where the more affordable housing is for them. The current special permit plat initially proposed 600 seats. We're down to 450 seats during the different iterations. There has been a lot of delays due to the transportation. We hired a transportation engineer that worked with VDOT and FDOT, and that was quite a delay. And we did end up getting the entrance to Braddock Road approved. Initially, we had a Sasher Lane entrance, and which the transportation guys, certainly liked because that's what they look at. But Brent, us, and Brandon decided that we're going to try to get a Braddock Road entrance only approved. And a right-in, right-out entrance is not uncommon, quite honestly. It's not ideal, but being that it's a arterial highway, the median breaks are 800 feet apart, and there's no chance to get a median break there, and I don't think that would help with transportation. So the plat proposes 114 spaces, showing ample, parking. Off-site parking, so there will be no need to have parking in the neighborhood. And the Friday prayer group, for instance, between noon and 3 is off-peak hours, and also they only draw about half the capacity. So it's not one of the high times that might fill up the parking lot. We've been working on this, for 4 years, and another issue was, the open space and the access for that lot 22 that has that swale. I call it a swale. It's actually paved. It's not paved, but it's a lawn right now. So, I'm also a professional engineer, and in my opinion, I don't believe it's a wetland. But during the site plan process, we do need to sign a certification that the wetland permits are all obtained, and we will hire a wetland consultant to look at that. And if necessary, if we have to get Army Corps permits and pay and buy mitigation. And there's also an opportunity to take that lawn back and turn it back into a functional wetland, and that would be, I think, a benefit for the water table and the stormwater management. So that's something we'll look at the site plan. Other iterations that we've looked at was when we remove the Sasher Lane entrance, there's a large stand of trees there between the neighborhood and the mosque and parking lot, probably over 300 feet long. At one point, we were looking at additional sanitary capacity with a septic, where we were going to take down more trees, and that would have been next to the house to the north. We're not doing the septic now that we got the third lot, because we have 3 grinder pumps, which will attain our 900 gallons per day needs for the congregation. So that's another positive input. Another advantage of buying that third lot was we were able to move the parking lot over a bit and move the mosque down another 20 feet from the north property line, giving us a 45-foot separation between the north property line and the mosque, and allowing us to save a lot of the existing tree stands there, too, for a natural buffer. And we're also supplementing the buffers with additional plantings, shrubs, and we're also maintaining all the fence lines around the perimeter that are 4-foot chain link fence, and we're going to maintain that and add additional buffering all around the property line as well. The only fence we're adding is we're adding a 6-foot wire fence along the parkway, and mostly that's for security reasons, around the parkway exit. So it will have a gated, entrance as well. That's going to be far back. That'll be mostly closed. The mosque isn't going to be operating 24/7. There's not full-time employees, so there'll be Friday prayers and other community activities. But for the most part, the mosque is going to be, operating under much less than capacity situations. So the architecture is going to be high quality, integrally colored masonry blocks, exterior wall material. Also, there'll be artisan tile work added around the entries and the windows, and high quality metal roofing. And also, we're adding a green roof as well. So the architect is here too. If there's any questions on the architectural, she'd be happy to answer any questions. The water use will be limited to 900 gallons per day, and our preliminary calculations indicate that it's not going to be much more than the 3 houses that are by right permitted. During the site plan, in addition, since there are 2 wells, and there's a question on whether we need a 3rd well or not, we don't need that yet. We don't know yet, but we're going to be hiring a well consultant to help us with the permitting. And in addition to the Fairfax County Health Department, the State Health Department is also involved anytime a well is converted or installed for a non-residential use. And in that process, I understand, we'll be doing drawdown tests. So will absolutely be a review of the impact to the water aquifer and the neighborhood wells before that's permitted. The 3rd lot, lot 22 that we're talking about, just installed a new well last year, 700 feet deep, and it yields 4 gallons per minute, which is pretty good yield. There's many houses I've worked on in Great Falls that have 1 gallon per minute, with huge households on it. So, but we believe that the mosque with a 20-year history, with no complaints, and they'll be, we believe they'll be good neighbors. They'll encourage their congregants to follow the rules, U-terms, to not park in the neighborhood, not drive through the neighborhood. I don't believe that would be faster to drive through the neighborhood anyway. But the development evolved through 5 revisions, and I think each revision was better for the community and the environment. Brent and Brandon were very professional, and they definitely are stewards of the environment and an advocate for the neighborhood. So we believe, that, and also with our traffic engineer and Fairfax Department of Transportation and VDOT, that was a tenuous, not a tenuous, it was a long process that I think we addressed as many of the transportation needs as possible with the traffic impact analysis. We believe we arrived at the best layout. The mosque is far away from the neighborhood as possible. The nearest house is 200 feet. The second nearest house is 350 feet away from the mosque. And then the third house is over 400 feet from the mosque. So we believe we placed the building exactly where it needs to be, and we saved a large tree area next to Sasher Lane and the house to the north. I would like to let the applicant come out and talk about his congregation, Imam Solomon Hassan, for a few words. Thank you. And we ask for your support.
Dear Vice Chairman and member of the Board of Zoning Appeals, good morning. My name is Sulaiman Hassan, and I am the Imam or spiritual advisor of the Imam al-Asr Islamic Seminary. I hold a PhD in Near Eastern Studies from the University of Chicago, and I have been serving as a religious advisor, educator, and counselor for more than 15 years. I joined the Imam al-Asr community full-time 3 years ago, but I have been part of this community since it was founded in 2001. The Imam al-Asr Mosque was started in a rented suite in a commercial building in Alexandria, located at 5501 Cherokee Avenue. Over the years, the membership of the congregation has grown steadily, and we now have outgrown our current premises, which has a capacity of 130 members. Most of our regular religious services are held at our current premises, and for our larger events and observances, which often have over 300 people attending, we rent out space at a hotel or park to accommodate a larger attendance. Our journey to find a larger home for our congregation began over 5 years ago, when we started the search for a parcel of land that can accommodate our growing community and needs. The process of developing our current plan has taken us more than 3 years, and we have expended considerable effort and energy to make sure that we do it right. During this time, we have worked with our excellent team of engineers and architects to develop a plan that fulfills our members' vision, is environmentally friendly, aesthetically pleasing, and fits in well with the surrounding community. A little bit about our regular services. Our normal weekly services include a Friday prayer service, which is held from noon to about 2 p.m., concludes before 3 p.m. We have about 40 or 50 people who attend regularly. We have a Thursday evening prayer, which is a 90-minute service held from 7:30 to 9 p.m. We have about 40 people who attend regularly. We have a Friday evening youth club that's held Friday from 7 to 10 p.m. We have about 30 regular participants, mostly teenagers and young adults. The youth organize a variety of activities for fun, education, and serving the community. And finally, we have a Sunday school, which is held Sundays from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., with about 80 people attending. In addition to religious programming, we offer family and marital counseling, addiction and behavior counseling, and conduct a biannual food drive to contribute to local food banks. Our current premises has served us well over the years, but it is insufficient to meet the needs of our growing community. Our new planned mosque and community center will give us ample space for our religious and service programs, with plenty of parking and green space and trees to provide a much more wholesome and healthy environment for our families and children. Our community comes from all over Fairfax County, and we also have some members who attend from Prince William and Loudoun counties. We believe strongly that the spiritual growth that we desire comes together with physical and emotional health and caring for the community and environment. As our community has adjusted to the changes brought about by COVID, we have come to better appreciate how important it is to have regular in-person services to keep people connected and prevent isolation, especially for young children and senior citizens. And we have increasingly realized the importance of diverse programming for not just worship, but also exercise, education, and community service. Our new facility has been designed with these important priorities in mind. With a carefully designed and purpose-built facility, we are looking forward to being able to better meet the needs of our congregation, community, and neighborhood. We ask you to support our application. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions for the applicant? Ms. Ballo?
Thank you. I believe that many of my questions were answered in your presentation. Thank you. I do still have a question about the stormwater management treatment of the existing structures that are proposed to remain. Is the square footage of those buildings, the former house and the garage that will become, activity buildings and their associated hardscape, is that calculated into your mitigation?
Absolutely, yeah. The new state law that came out in 2014 has a spreadsheet called a VRRM, and existing and proposed hardscapes are put into it.
Did your team or did your architect look at perhaps enhancing those buildings in any way? Obviously, they're very sturdy. You could probably go in and use them as activity buildings now. But I'm thinking about, your application was very thoughtful and intentional about green building measures for your new structure. Did you think about anything for the existing buildings, either re-roofing them to have green roofs or any other additional mitigation treatments for those buildings?
Well, Lot 22 coincidentally has a sun, solar panels, Tesla solar panels. However, the seller is renting back from the applicant right now, and it's a financing situation where I think they're taking it with them. But we'll look into seeing if they can leave it there and as a buyout, if it makes any sense. And we can also look at planter boxes. That would probably be the best, easiest situation to do, to pick up the downspouts of the roofs. And I believe there's an opportunity where that potential wetland showed up on the map. It's a lawn area now, so if it was a wetland, I think it got filled in and manicured. I believe we can look into creating a wetland there and making it function as a low point, as a energy dissipator before it goes underneath our parking lot into our underground detention, and then underneath the parkway culverts to the ultimate stream down the road.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manganello, can you show me, please, the green roof and explain that?
Yes, the green roof is below the dome. I don't know if I have a picture of it.
Well, I didn't see it, and that's kind of why I heard about it. But this morning, and
I'll see if the architect has a picture of it. We can maybe bring. Was there one in the application?
Has staff?
We have the elevations. I don't know if we have anything more than that. Did you provide?
Does staff know about the green roof?
Yes, we did know. It's referenced several times in the staff report.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we need a development condition about maintaining the plants or anything like that?
I mean, we have a condition that requires the maintenance of trees and landscaping in general on the site.
I meant with a green roof specifically.
We could add additional language specifically calling out the green roof if you feel that's necessary, but there is an overarching condition regarding maintenance of supplemental plantings and new landscaping site-wide.
And as the board knows, the county policy on green building, on things like LEED certification, it's not a requirement, for this type of development. If it were, we would certainly put strict conditions in place regarding, certification and maintenance of any green building technologies. I think in cases like this, we try to we encourage it. We don't require it. In this case, they're providing it. We assume they would want to maintain it. I'm a little hesitant, sometimes with green roofs, they can be complicated, and sometimes, down the road, they work is needed on those, or, I don't know. I would be a little hesitant to require.
Well, I'm asking because I've been on a couple tours, and sometimes some of the plants worked out better than others or weren't maintained properly.
Sure.
And
Well, all of the requirements for the, like, parking lot landscaping, transitional screening, I mean, that certainly,
it would be part of that?
well, that has to be maintained, you know, in good condition in perpetuity. I mean, if you're talking about what goes on the green roof,
Yeah.
I mean, that, since we're not since it's not a county requirement that they necessarily put in a
Well,
green
if they're
roof here.
proposing it and we're approving it, aren't we?
Well,
sort of-
we didn't condition it. They included it in their proposal as something that they'd like to incorporate in their ultimate design. I mean, I don't know if their architect is here and wants to comment on how they've incorporated that into the building, but I mean, if the board wants to ensure that that feature of green building technology remains, I suppose we could do that.
Well,
But-
maybe we should come back to that. Mr. Manganello,
I can maybe address
jumped
that.
around, but I think you were going to show me if there's a rendering or something.
Well, can I address your question?
Yeah.
About, during the site plan process, since we are putting the green roof, we are going to take credit for the BMP as part of the stormwater management water quality. During the site plan process, we're required to have a maintenance agreement, so that there will be.
So they will, yeah.
There will be
Okay.
an agreement that's
Okay.
going to be written on all our. You do the same thing with filteras, which we're proposing a few, and the underground detention. So there will be a maintenance agreement and a contract required to be with a maintenance company.
It's not the dome, but where is it?
It's on the flat part of the dome. Let's see. Do you have a? This is the architect. You can talk. I'll see if I brought a picture.
And you've been sworn in?
Yes, I
Okay.
have raised my hand. My name is Sibel Oskan. I'm a registered architect in Virginia, and I'm a lead accredited professional, so I have a special interest in sustainable buildings. And when we offered sustainable measures for this project, our client was our main promotion was our renderings through the green roof. So we have beautiful renderings, but I don't know how I can share them with you right now. The dome is 98 feet in diameter. It's at the back and center. When you look at the front elevation, I don't know if you can see
Well,
it.
we almost, okay, now we have up the main entrance elevation, and there's sort of different flat
What about
roofs.
the side elevation? That might be. Okay, so at the side elevation, you see where the dome is. The green roof starts, actually I can see the greenery at the top of the roof. The green roof starts where the minaret is, between the minaret and the dome, through the whole width of the building. That is the green roof. It's quite large area, and the rest is perimeter metal roofing. The majority of the roof surface is actually green roof.
All right, thank you. Mr. Manganello, quickly, if I understood your testimony, the blue line on the tax map is not it's not a regulated stream. It's either lawn or a swale at this time. And the question of, you don't believe it's wetlands, but the question of wetlands would come up before site plan?
Absolutely. On the all plans and plats, we have to certify that the wetlands were looked at, and all wetland laws are being complied with.
With respect to the threatened species potential, we had a difficult church case on a similar site, but at Pope's Head and the Parkway rather than Braddock and the Parkway, not long ago. Did you do any evaluation of whether there is potential for threatened species on this property?
We have not.
With respect to the transportation, we've had cases before where there was some sort of tempting but prohibited movement. And I think it's going to be tempting for people to get back to the parkway some other way than maybe driving down to Willow Springs and turning around, or whatever it is that they're supposed to do. We have talked about, and we've put a condition on in some cases, about putting something in the bulletin or notifying people some other way than just, I mean, the sign is okay, but putting something in the bulletin or communicating to the congregation in some way, or particularly people that are coming for a wedding or a special event that don't know where they're going, to not do whatever it is that they're, to go back to the parkway, you turn around 3 blocks down, or whatever it is you're supposed to do. Did you have a discussion with staff about other ways to reinforce the prohibition on the left turns?
Yeah, I like that idea. I've been involved with many churches and especially with schools. Drop off and pick up are very specific. And it was handled with a parking plan to give into all new members, to new special events, to have in flyers for handouts for the weekly services. I think we can agree to a parking plan of some sort.
Mr. Hassan addressed, I think, some of the activities of the congregation, but what I wondered was also, in terms of the parking ratio or maybe parking for special events, the mosque on Route 7 has always had, it's never quite had enough parking. And there have been efforts made to try and deal with that. But for what this congregation does, is there enough parking on site to handle whatever it is, the Friday afternoon crowd, special events, whatever it is, it's all going to fit in the spaces that you've shown?
We believe so.
Is all of the parking paved, or is there any pervious material or some other technique to mitigate the impacts on the reservoir?
No, we looked into that, and this will address Ms. Balla's comment earlier. It is a high water table, so we are looking at more manufacturing devices like filters, maybe a planter box, the green roof. This is why these things came up, and I wish we had a picture of that green roof. It's spectacular looking. It's big, and it's a great location for it, and because the site doesn't have a lot of green space, particularly if we take lot 22 and we make a wetland out of what's a lawn as well, and make it a low, go with that low point. But so pervious pavements require, impervious air, ground and the groundwater that's lower, not high. So we can't really use those.
I live in the RC. I dug a hole in the backyard last weekend, and I hit water less than a foot.
Yes.
All right. The 50% undisturbed, is there any qualification? I mean, is the 50% vulnerable to utility installations or other things, or is the 50% a realistic number?
We certainly, at this stage, we've already done a preliminary engineering. We have a grading plan. It's not in the special permit plat, but our limits of disturbance are based on final engineering. So absolutely, we can live within those limits of disturbance.
And there's no public water nearby?
No, it's on the east side of the parkway, which is quite a distance. And I believe the school, that's a school too, so they haven't connected the two dots. But it's about a mile, 2 miles apart, I think.
All right, thank you. Additional questions for the applicant? All right, we'll go to the speakers next. We have, I think, about a dozen signed up already. First speaker is Philip Rosenthal. Mr. Rosenthal, if you would come down and identify yourself. Welcome.
Listen, Mr. Chairman, members of the Board of Zoning Appeals, I, like you, I serve on 3 county committees. I've served on the On-Thank Award Committee, the Community Action Advisory Board, and I'm a trustee of the Fairfax County Libraries. But I also own the property next door to the Seminary Mosque. My office is located at 5503 Cherokee Avenue in Alexandria. And I've owned the property for over 30 years. The Islamic Seminary Mosque began serving services in the building about 20 years ago. They're at 5501, so it's right next door to my property. The president of the mosque and the Board of Trustees, Dr. Hassan, when they moved in, came over because we were going to be neighbors, introduced himself, and he and I have worked together, for years. My office doesn't have enough parking spaces, let's say, before the virus, so he always allowed me to park on his parking spaces. When a holiday would come and they would need additional parking, I would have my people not park there. So we've been neighbors for, like I said, 20 years. There's never been any incident of anything. And, the Muslim community, they have their, the Friday prayers, evening prayers, and Sunday school. They've been excellent neighbors to me, and I covered the parking. As neighbors, we've collaborated. During the day, my employees make use of the mosque parking spaces. Evenings, when they need it, they use my parking spaces. During Friday noon prayers, about 50 or 60 people attend the prayer services, which finished within about an hour. And again, we never had issues with crowding, noise, or parking during any of these holidays or anything. As a neighbor, I've seen the Muslim community grow over the years. They have a growing congregation of beautiful families, very, very nice people. They're educated, law-abiding citizens like the rest of us. And I enthusiastically support their application to build a new mosque with ample facilities for their community. They've grown. Again, I cannot emphasize enough what a nice person Dr. Hassan is, and what a wonderful neighbor he's been to work with over the years. So I would very much appreciate if you would consider approving their application. Thank you so very much.
Next speaker is Hassan Abbas. And let me just say, we have about a dozen speakers signed up already on this case. If you're going to speak on this case or the next case, if you come on down, it will save some time. I'll tell you also, the seats down closer in the front are a little more comfortable anyway. But please move down front if you're going to speak, and that hopefully will save some time. Mr. Abbas, you have 3 minutes.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and the board. My name is Hassan Abbas. I'm a professor, dean, and distinguished professor of international relations at the National Defense University here in Washington, D.C. I've been involved with this community as a member and as a visitor also for over 10 years since I moved here from New York. And I have very quick 3 points to make. One is I've seen this community from close. They have been involved in and deeply engaged in terms of they wanted to have a permanent home or a proper full-time location for this, and they went through various conversations, dialogues with other community members, other Muslim groups as well. So this was a very well thought out plan because they wanted to have a permanent place and because the community is growing. I've seen this community as very vibrant, deeply involved in social gatherings, other events, engagement with other organizations. Secondly, I know Imam Sulaiman Hassan closely. This is a unique case here where he has the highest degree from a religious seminary from a very important international place, and also a PhD from Chicago University, an excellent combination. And that I've seen in terms of there's an effort which is always very professional, very methodical. And last but not the least, and this was a fascinating series of questions from all of you about the environmental issues. And that reminded me that I had heard so many a times some sermons and lectures from him on being the need for being environment friendly. So I'm very convinced, and I can vouch for it, that not only that this community and especially the leadership is going to focus on the regulations and the needs and the laws in this regard, water use, environmental issues, but also from a religious perspective, they are going to be very much targeted on this as an environment friendly community, even besides the rules and regulations part. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Sloan Skellion, and to be followed by Mohsin Nadeem and Syed Shah. Mr. Skellion.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the Board of Zoning Appeal. My name is Sloan Skellion. I'm the owner and agent of the Sloan Skellion State Farm Agency, located at the 5501 Cherokee Avenue location. A State Farm office has occupied that location for 27 years, and I took over the lease in 2016. 5501 Cherokee Avenue building in Alexandria is a two-story commercial building, and my office suite is located on the second floor. The ground floor of the building is rented to the Islamic Seminary Mosque, which has been providing services to the local Muslim community for over 20 years. Most of the services of the mosque are conducted in the evenings, except on Fridays, along with a few special occasions throughout the year, such as Ramadan. During Friday noon prayer, 40 to 60 people attend the service, which concludes in under an hour. There's ample parking on the property, and I nor any of my customers have ever noticed or experienced any issues of overcrowding, noise, or lack of parking on Fridays. My interactions with the members of the mosque have been cordial, very friendly, and respectful. The members are always mindful of the common areas, restrooms, and parking lot, which are always left clean. We've never had any issues, and again, they are very friendly and very nice. As a neighbor, I have seen the Muslim community grow over the years. They have a growing congregation and have always been considerate to me, my team, and customers, and to other businesses in my building. I enthusiastically support their application to build a new, larger mosque that will provide religious services to their growing community. Thank you. Thank you.
Next is Mohsin Nadeem, to be followed by Syed Shah and Abida Hussain. Mr. Nadeem.
Thank you. Good morning, BZA members. My name is Mohsin Nadeem. I am one of the trustees of the seminary. I, along with my wife and 3 kids, have been closely associated with the Islamic Seminary for the last 15 years. The seminary has been a pillar for our community and has greatly helped us to build our character and to understand and adapt to our identity as American Muslims, aligned with the core values of American Constitution, including mercy, justice, freedom, human dignity, and equality for all. Every day I see the reflection of these values in our character of our kids and community members when we see them volunteer for community projects, support local food pantries, blood drives, helping friends with social issues, charity, and philanthropy. Our current facility, which started with just few families in the area, is not sufficient to address increasing needs of growing community, including education, worship, religious gatherings, inter- and intra-faith forums, projects to support local communities, recreational facilities for kids, or just a place where community members of all ages can easily interact with fellow members. Most importantly, COVID pandemic, as Agha Suleiman mentioned earlier, has increased the need to have such facility to address psychological, financial, social community needs during such difficult times. The current mosque design reflects a modern green architecture to minimize our environmental footprint and increase awareness in all communities of being environment friendly, one of the key teachings of our own religion. I request the respected board members to approve the application for this facility. That would be a great addition to already diverse houses of worship in the Fairfax County. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Syed Shah, to be followed by Abida Hussain and Iman Kashvipur. Mr. Shah.
Thank you. Respected members of the Board of Zoning Appeal, good morning. My name is Syed Ali Shah, and I am a software architect by profession. I moved to Northern Virginia about 14 years ago when I was not even married. Now I have 4 children aged 12, 10, 6, and 5 months baby. During all this time, the Islamic Seminary has been very beneficial to provide services as a community support, and it made me part of very active part of the community now that I am very actively contributing as a volunteer. For my children and our family, the seminary is a source of information, guidance, inspiration, a way for connecting to the community, and also it creates a valuable opportunity for us or our children to contribute back to the community when we are able to do so and when they are fully grown up. So unfortunately, our current facility is not enough and not, I would say, designed to be a place of worship, and we are growing as well as a community. So we have thought of building a place of worship that will be built to serve that purpose. So it will allow us as a community to be nurtured and build that American Muslim identity and to be proud of it. So I would request the board to consider the approval of this application that will serve their purpose. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Abida Hussain, to be followed by Iman Kashvipur and Mr. or Ms. Bao. Ms. Hussain.
Yes, good morning, committee members. Thank you so much for allowing me to speak today. I'll try and keep it within 3 minutes. My name is Abida Hussain, and I have lived in Northern Virginia for the past 16 years, 10 of which I have actually lived in Fairfax County. I am an active mother of 4 boys, once a pharmacist, but now I'm invested in education and volunteering. I believe our community, which is almost bursting at the seams, is ready to move to a bigger location. So I'm here to speak about the current proposal for our community, in hopes that it will provide us with the space to conduct various faith-based programs and community enriching sessions that include interfaith gatherings and a whole host of other events. Like other churches, temples, and synagogues in the area, we also run a weekend school or a Sunday school, and we hold regular programming to support our community needs. One of these programs, which I'm currently involved in, is the youth meetings on Friday, and this allows youth to participate in games, TED Talk presentations, and social events and learning throughout the ages, something which is very essential for a healthy community. Many people who travel to our centre at the moment are located, our centre is located in Alexandria, but our congregation comes from Fairfax, Loudoun, Fauquier, and Prince William counties. And the new plot's location, located on Braddock and 286, provides a convenient Northern Virginia location for many of our members. Decreasing the commute for our community members will actually help enhance active participation and decrease congestion on the roads and ease the stress of travelling at the moment in the heavily congested areas of the Springfield Mixing Bowl. The parcel provides us with a green space that's needed for our community and youth to expand our programming in. Our value system encourages stewardship of the earth that we live on, and being able to utilise this green space, it's a central component of our day-to-day lives. Allowing our children to have space where nature is an integral part of the activities will actually encourage environmental consciousness and help for future generations. So to conclude, our DMV participants have increased in number, our breadth and outlook as a community has evolved to the extent that we definitely need a better space in order for our community to move forward in a positive, better direction. Thank you so much for listening. Please do support our cause. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Iman Kashvipur, to be followed by Mr. or Ms. Bao and Jeffrey Putnam. Mr. Kashvipur.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is Imam al-Asr. I'm a digital marketing professional. I joined the Islamic seminary community several years ago, and since then I have seen this community grow to include more people like myself. In this community, I have met friends and professionals at varying stages of their careers in medicine, IT, education, and other fields. Surprisingly, I have also seen children quietly sitting through long lectures and prayers, thanks to their parents' attentive care and preparation. As our community grows and attracts more people like myself, I have come to see the importance of a space it can call its own. Fortunately, this is a deserving community. From the kids who vacuum after every program to the adults who give from their busy schedules to maintain the current property, I am confident that this proposed facility will be in good hands. It has been meticulously designed by internationally renowned architects to be a tasteful and pleasing addition to the neighborhood with ample parking. A green roof will help reduce runoff, and along with other environmentally friendly features, will minimize its impact on public resources. And construction will be done concurrently in order to spare neighbors from a long building process. It is my hope that you will also find that this proposal is worthy of approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Mr. or Ms. Bao, and I think they're a telephone speaker.
Mr. Chairman, Vice Chairman, we'll take the phone speakers after all the
Okay,
in-person
so
speakers.
keep going with
Yes.
the in-person. Okay, we'll skip them, and then the next speaker is Jeffrey Putnam, to be followed by Jeffer Habibi, and then I guess the next one was by phone also. All right, the next speaker is Jeffrey Putnam.
Good morning,
Mr.
Board.
Putnam.
My name is Jeffrey Putnam. I live at 12300 Anderson Avenue, which is directly adjacent to the property addressed in the hearing today. I moved to Vinoy Acres subdivision 22 years ago. While I don't have the technical expertise of some of the staff and VDOT recommendations to be able to address these recommendations, we have some deep concerns about the development of land as being proposed. Due to time constraints, I'll limit these contents to 3 concerns. Number 1, traffic flow. The portion of Braddock Road that is in the immediate area of the proposed site is growing more and more congested each year. Entering Braddock Road from Fairfax County Parkway heading westbound can be a significant challenge on any afternoon and would be significantly impacted by traffic flow rates as proposed of 605 cars per day or 324 VPH, especially on Friday afternoons. That day typically sees the most traffic volume on this road. Turning left out of the Vinoy Acres subdivision is challenging at best, and this proposal could worsen those volumes to a point where it would paralyze the region. Making U-turns and changing the flow into the Vinoy Acres subdivision is not supporting of the neighborhood as it stands right now. Even with the additional traffic due to the Islamic seminary, there have been numerous incidents and even one fatality within the last few years in that interchange. The proximity of the entrance to the proposed site at the exit from the parkway has the potential to cause significant delays for us residents trying to access our neighborhood. The second concern I have is well and septic, which has been addressed today. There are numerous documented cases, however, in the neighborhood of wells going dry or neighbors having problems having access without drilling significantly deep. Having a building of this magnitude proposed would tax the existing resources of both the water supply as well as existing high-pressure septic system. Should fire suppression be necessary, we are concerned that the existing infrastructure would not be sufficient to address any potential situations. This level of demand of both potable water as well as septic services should prompt a feasibility study into the impact of this structure and the ability to tie into the commercial water and sewage services available within the proximity. The third area which we most strongly disagree with the statements by staff that the proposed site is in harmony with the existing neighborhood is of deep concern to us. We were attracted to this neighborhood 22 years ago because of the nature of the quiet neighborhood and the buffer that exists between it and the commercial buildings that surround it that would have high impact on our neighborhood. The proposed parking plan needs to be limited in scope and in lighting. There must be a prohibition in parking on adjacent streets to maintain access to our neighborhood, as well as a plan to keep proposed traffic flow out of the neighborhood. The elevation also of the minarets is not consistent with our neighborhood in terms of the elevation of the existing houses.
Excuse me, Mr. Putnam, your red light is on. If you could please sum up.
Yes, that's my content. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Jafir Abidi.
Good afternoon, Chairman and board members. My name is Dr. Jafar Abidi. I'm an internal medicine physician. I moved here to Northern Virginia in 2016, and I've been a part of this community since then. I live here with my wife, Dr. Rizwana Zaidi, who's also an internal medicine physician, and our 3 children. We were heavily involved with the COVID response at Reston Hospital and Inova Fairfax Hospital. This community has been great for us and our children. We've made a lot of friends here. We initially didn't know anybody in the area, but we've met people through the mosque. Our children have made friends through the mosque. When we first moved to Northern Virginia, we were very impressed with all of the city planning here, compared to Buffalo, New York, which is where I'm originally from. All the city planning, all the beautiful buildings, the trees. I think the mosque will add to this. The mosque specifically is involved in a lot of charitable activities. I personally have been involved with, they do yearly food drives as well as clothing drives, as well as charitable donations in terms of money. And, we take some of these charities to some of the local charity organizations in the area. They were involved heavily with the COVID response. The mosque was shut down, but they were doing virtual learning. They were also delivering food to a lot of individuals who were in need, who weren't able to attend the mosque, and also the community at large. This mosque also helps coordinate a lot of charities abroad. My wife was involved after meeting someone through the mosque with internal medicine charitable work in Iraq, where she went for 2 weeks. She's also, her and I are also involved with building wells in foreign countries for a lot of villages that don't have access to water. And all of this was coordinated through the mosque, through third-party organizations, but we met these people through the mosque to coordinate this. The mosque has a lot of activities for the youth, which keeps them engaged. We've done painting classes, hiking trips, a lot of things, escape rooms, laser tag, social mixers, picnics, medical education, lectures. They have as mentioned before, they have the Friday night youth meetings. So it keeps the children engaged with each other, keeps them out of trouble. And then a lot of the members of this community that I have met are highly educated individuals. I'm a physician myself, and I know personally internal medicine physicians, emergency medicines, anesthesiologists, pain management, radiologists, psychiatrists, pediatric neurosurgeon, and adult neurosurgeon that are part of this community, as well as PhDs, engineers, lawyers, government contractors, entrepreneurs, and college professors and IT professionals. So in conclusion, what I'd like to say is that this mosque and this community has served myself and my family very well. The individuals in this community are very strong in the youth programs, very strong in charity, highly educated individuals, and I think building this new building will just serve to grow the community and allow us to enhance all of these activities. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the end of the in-person speakers who signed up. Do you want me to go to the phone now, or
did you want to finish
one
up?
more at least?
Did you want to finish up with anyone who had?
Well, let's figure out. Do we have any other speakers in the audience in person who want to address this case? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, let's do the in-person, then we'll switch over to the phones. Okay. If somebody, maybe there's 5 I counted, maybe it's a couple more than that, but if just the next speaker would come down and identify yourself, you have 3 minutes. No, take your time. But while we're setting up, if any of you in the audience are planning on speaking, the closer down to the front you are, it's going to be easier.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not anti-Muslim. Many of my friends are Muslim. What I will answer two of your questions.
Well, if you could please identify yourself,
Okay.
Name and address first for the record.
All right, my name is William Semo. My wife and I live at 5407 Sasher Lane in the Lincoln, Lewis, and Vinoy subdivision in the Fairfax County. I am here today to express our concerns for the potential destruction of our water supply and the potential for a disaster if there is a fire should the county approve the construction of a new church building in our subdivision. Our neighborhood does not have access to county water supply or fire hydrants. Now the county plans on approving the construction of a building that will be used by 400 to 500 people with a 50 to 100 car parking lot. We do not have the infrastructure for the potential increase of traffic all of these cars will create. Our neighborhood has no sidewalks or storm drains. We have no access to the municipal sewer system either. We only have a grinder pump system which is operated with our home wiring and our well water. This new building will not be on the city water system either. It will also use a well, meaning all restrooms, toilets, and sinks will draw water from the same aquifer our subdivision uses for its water. The county and state representatives promised back in 1984 that our neighborhood would get fire protection when they widened Braddock Road. They said they would connect the water line between Colchester Road and the Mott Community Center and provide fire hydrants. This was 38 years ago, and they did nothing. The county now says they won't provide us with the access to fire protection that they promised, but they would have us pay heavy real estate taxes to provide the baseball parks and build right next to our subdivision with a water supply at a cost of $22 to $24 million. And none of this tax burden will be shouldered by the church that wants to build in our neighborhood, as church properties are exempt from paying real estate tax. The zoning designation for our subdivision was residential conservation. Shouldn't allow such large construction to happen, but zoning laws don't seem to mean anything when the county wants to do something. Now, to answer two questions that you had earlier. One of them is, how far is the city water system from us? 1/10 of a mile at the Mott Community Center, and about a 3/4 of a mile up the road at Colchester. So, and then the cones that you were talking about, depending on when that was taken, was the construction of bringing water supply down to the ballparks that they built right between our subdivision and the Willow Springs Elementary School. I don't understand why we can't get at least fire protection when they promised us that at the meetings that they had at the community center when they were talking about widening Braddock Road and also bringing in the pressure sewer system, of which I was on the committee. So now.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker, it's somebody in the audience. Just if the next speaker would please come down.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity to address the board. My name is Christina Voss. I live at 5411 Ruby Drive, which is at the corner of Anderson Road and Ruby. Reading through the reports, one of the things that I saw was that something like this should have no impact on transportation systems. And I'm actually very surprised that VDOT would extend an exemption from 750 feet to 370 feet for the entrance off of Braddock Road. As it is now, coming out of Ruby Drive to turn left onto Braddock Road, there we often have to wait a considerable amount of time to make that left-hand turn, and even to turn right. And as it is now, the light at the parkway gives us that buffer and a stopping point where we can see a break in traffic. But if the entrance and the exit is going westbound from the access point, there's going to be times when we're not going to even be able to get out of our neighborhoods for a while. I truly believe that. And right, the proposal to make a no U-turn at that one area, as it is now, if we want to go left, we often have to go down Sasher, make that right-hand turn, and do that U-turn right there at Ruby, because you can't get across 2 lanes of traffic oftentimes in the mornings and in the evenings. And there are times when I do take the right-hand turn and make the U-turn at Willow Springs. One of the other items, item number 13 in Appendix 1, it said that there would be no parking on Braddock or Sasher. At a minimum, if this were to go forward, you need to include that there's no parking on Anderson, Ruby, and possibly others. Again, the proposal for the no U-turn, we use it right now as a U-turn to get out of that neighborhood. So to say that there's no transportation impact, I find disingenuous, because rush hour traffic going westbound, eastbound is very difficult as it is. And if you're going to have additional traffic, that would be adding to that problem. And I think my other concern would be the safety of the mosque itself. With being on a well water system, with the sprinkler system, which I'm sure would have to be in place to be up to code, would that provide enough pressure to provide that fire protection support? And that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Tina Stebline, and I am here today because I have real concerns, excuse me, let me take my mask off, about this project. I will say I am fully in support of religious institutions, and I'm sorry that here we are at the 11th hour with all this property and trying to get permits, because I do support it. I just have real concerns over its location. I live half a mile away on 12320 Braddock Road. Thankful for the placards on the side of the road to tell us there was even a hearing about this today. Didn't know we'd gotten this far along. We bought our home in 2010 because it's an amazing location. Since then, we've seen significant growth, including a new sign indicating George Mason off of the parkway. Just go left, and to the right is our home. And from that, we have seen, since 2010, probably a good 25% increase in traffic. We were thankful for the significant reduction of traffic during COVID, about 75% less. If I'm not mistaken, the study from the transportation gentleman that was presented earlier, those facts came out in 2020 is when that study was. We saw about 75% reduction in traffic. So if we're using that as a basis for some of the discussions on roads and transportation flows, I do have very big concerns about that. In the last 5 years, though, I can tell you pre-COVID, 3 out of the 4 family members have had accidents at those 2 intersections. And they were rear-end collisions. And further, those of us that live on Braddock Road, as we are coming off the parkway and trying to make that right into our driveway, we have to be extremely careful because cars, when they do have the green light, are flying. And we have almost been rear-ended coming into our driveway. And we're a half a mile away from there. So between people running red lights, the traffic patterns there, even with stoplights, I'm not sure even who would want to actually have an exit to a facility with so many people that close. So whether you're coming off of Sasher, whether you're coming down Braddock Road, either of those just seem like we're trying to put a really big institution in a place where there's not much space. So I have a whole lot of other things that talk about noise pollution, and we think about the ozone, all of the idling cars. It would take another couple minutes to discuss that. So I guess I'll just say to the board, I have to ask if this is really an appropriate and best use case for a community that is zoned residential conservation, and make sure that we are really looking at things like the environmental impacts. We did have somebody say today that there were not, I guess, endangered species evaluations done. We are pretty certain we had a pair of owls next to us at the road where the ballpark, so they just took down all those trees. So I would encourage, as we walk away here, that we think about those environmental and those transportation impacts and make sure that the studies are current and relevant. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good morning. I'm Paul Stebline, and I live at 12320 Braddock Road. Fairfax is just a couple hundred feet from the proposed area. I support the mosque, the religious worship, and the programs. It sounds great. I'm just concerned about the intensity of use for the property, as well as the cumulative effects with the other activities over the last few years. These are effects on health, safety, environmental impact, cultural resources, economic value, quality of life, and how I think Fairfax County can do a better job handling public comment. Under health and safety, building a church with periodic attendance in the hundreds adds additional traffic to Braddock Road and side streets at intersections that already see many accidents a year. I just looked at the map, and it's just black with accidents at Braddock and Fairfax County. Some of these included my family. The exhaust fumes from the cars degrade air quality for NOx, or National Ambient Air Quality Standards, including such species as ozone, PM2.5, nitroxides, and other VOCs that contribute to ozone. Fairfax County is in non-attainment for ozone. Air quality locally degrades when traffic builds up, which is every day during rush hour. It becomes a parking lot on Braddock Road and oftentimes on Fairfax County Parkway. The tree coverage at the property provides a barrier or filter to both noise and air from the parkway and also Braddock Road. We have asthma in our family, and so when it does build up and there's still air, we can't go outside because the air quality is so bad. By the way, I'm a biologist, a scientist, and have worked on many land management plans. Developing the building and parking lots adds substantial impervious cover. Based on the maps, it looked like roughly 50% of the property. And so preventing water infiltration of groundwater, accelerating water runoff, and also represents additional withdrawal from the groundwater. The whole area has low yield wells, excuse me, with periodic well failure. Our well, when we moved in, was about 1 gallon per minute. And I don't know if you've lived in a house with 1 gallon per minute, that's not adequate for most households. Many of them in the area are 5 gallons per minute or less. We bore the cost of a new well, and that came in at 3.7 gallons per minute, and it's 600 feet deep. As you heard, there are nearby water supply lines, and at least the arterial should be moved out to make it available to the neighborhoods. That has been requested a number of times. Development of the ballpark, I'll wrap it up. Development of the
Mr. Stedline, your red light is on. If you could please sum up.
Sure. So the ballpark, which developed hundreds of acres on the other side, that's what the cones were for, degraded substantially the area in terms of the conservation of natural heritage, also cultural resources there. There's barred owls, red-shouldered hawks. We see eagles periodically. There's box turtles. There's many other species. And so I think it would be challenging. I appreciate the design that went into the applicant's plan, but it is going to be mostly developed property. Thank you.
Next speaker, please. And is this our final speaker that's in the room? is there one more I'm not seeing, but? Okay, yes, I see. Okay, all right, sorry. One more after her. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, respected board members. My name is Nzinga Abdulaziz. I'm a mother of two, and I live in Silver Spring, Maryland. I'm employed as a registered nurse and health educator. I've been a member of the Imam al-Asr Mosque for a few years now. My family and I are grateful to have identified and joined a vibrant and diverse congregation. It supports our personal and spiritual growth and development as individuals and as citizens. I'm an active volunteer at the mosque, including serving as a Sunday school teacher. We gather to fellowship, support one another, celebrate weddings, and comfort one another at funerals. We benefit from the opportunities to assemble for study, community service, prayer, and entertainment. The lives that we live within the mosque supports what we're doing outside of the mosque as well. Belonging to a religious institution supports my efforts to be more civically engaged. As a Muslim, we're encouraged to positively contribute to the communities in which we live and worship through volunteering, charity work, community service, and interfaith engagement. Thankfully, our community is growing and flourishing. There's a need for additional space to accommodate our activities. We're looking forward to provide increased opportunities for the youth and adult congregants for education, nature-based activities, as well as hosting and sponsoring larger community events. And we look forward to your support and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman and members of the board and members of the community. My name is Farah Hyder. I reside at 824 Wan Avenue in McLean, Virginia. I'm here to talk a little bit about our younger members of the community who are currently in school. My nephew is 9 years old. He attends Franklin Sherman Elementary School in McLean, and he gave me, what we were talking, we had one of our major events for Ramadan on the weekend, and we were talking about fundraising for this project that we're undergoing, and he said, well, you mean I can participate in this even though I'm just 9 years old? And I said, absolutely. So he went to his piggy bank and brought out a $100 bill and said, I'd like to contribute this towards this. So what I want to emphasize is that we are helping shape the next generation of Fairfax County residents. And this space, this project, this masjid, this mosque would help us to help teach them our teachings of environmental stewardship, which we've seen is so important. And we certainly share the concerns of the community in terms of getting water. I didn't realize that city water was only a 1/10 of a mile away. Perhaps that's something we can work with you, with the county, to get, that would help us, and as well as the community next to us. And to speak to Vice Chairman Hart's point, we always have, and almost every mosque I've attended, we always have announcements about how traffic should flow, where you need to go, and where you shouldn't go. So that is something we would definitely do for our congregants. And one last thing, I am also a Sunday school teacher, and one of the things that we teach the youth that come is that certainly ritual prayer is very important to all of us, but 95% of our lives is outside of ritual prayer, and that's how we conduct ourselves. And so one reminder that we always give our Sunday school kids is that even if no one is watching you, someone else, a higher power, is watching you. So you have a responsibility to always do the right thing. So whether that's abiding by traffic regulations or helping conserve the environment, because we have a responsibility to leave the earth not just how we found it, but better than we found it. So I look forward to helping create an even more vibrant community in this area. Thank you.
Thank you. That, I think, concludes the speakers in the room, and I'm not sure I can see the whole room, but all right, we'll go then to the telephone speakers. The first is, I'm sorry, it's either Mr. or Miss Bow, I don't know.
We'll do that one first, Mr. Chairman. We'll go with Ms. Bow, and then I'll answer how they are lined up on the phone. Hi, Mr. and Ms. Bao, are you there?
Hi, this is Bao Zheng.
Give me just one moment. Let me swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth under penalty of the law?
Yes.
Okay, you
I
have
do.
3 minutes.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman and members of the Zoning Board. My name is Bao Zheng. I live at 5380 Sasha Lane. And forgive me if my concerns and questions may have been addressed earlier, but I want to look at or ask about the permit we are looking at. Call for 450 worshipers. More than likely, these are the low estimate of regular worshiper. Have we talked about the number of children involved and how many of them? And, you know, we know that for the prayer ritual, they do hand washing before every prayer. And that also includes a lot of water usage that we are thinking that may be drained or diverted from our current water resources. And the hour of operation, I see that it's for 7 to 10 p.m., but we know that the morning prayer could start as early as 4:15, depends on 4:15 a.m., depends on any particular day and month. Like this morning, the morning prayer is before 5 a.m. And the concern we have is there are only few of us here, and we don't have the research or the knowledge that the big mosque and the engineers that they hire to work on this building. But I look to the zoning board member to make sure that our concerns are addressed, and that we should not be overlooked because of a more wealthy and powerful group is coming to our neighborhood. And that's all I have.
Thank you. The next telephone speaker is Joel. I'm sorry, Mr. Joel.
Hi, Mr. Majolski.
Joel's fine.
Okay, Joel, I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth under penalty of the law?
I do.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Hello, my name is Joel Majewski, and I'm the owner and resident of 5404 Sasha Lane. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you today, and I apologize for not being there in person. I am speaking here today to voice my opposition to the special use permit based on the information presented in the special use permit fifth submission and the county staff report. Previously, I've submitted 2 correspondences to the board regarding this issue, enumerating the many concerns that my neighbors and I have regarding the scale of proposed development, proximity to existing residential neighborhoods, and the multifaceted impacts to the surrounding community. It is our assertion that the site is a poor choice for the proposed level of development, and our concerns can be characterized but not limited to the following: water management, parking overflow, traffic control, and site aesthetics. Due to the limited time, I will resign to addressing each briefly, but urge the board to consider the entirety of the 2 correspondences along with the suggested development conditions. On the issue of water management, the surrounding communities of Vinoy Acres, Levistown, and Lake Fairfax Estates depend on wells for our source of potable water. The wells are temperamental producers, with residents complaining of limited supply during dry times, and many of the wells exceed 100 feet in depth. It is my understanding during the development of Patriot Park North, which borders our community to the west, municipal water was extended. We are asking that the same provision be required of the applicants of the site to limit the impact on the surrounding community's water supply. We are also asking that the board consider the impact of development on water tables and any resulting surface contamination. On the issue of parking overflow, We're deeply concerned about the enforcement mechanism. The proposed peak traffic of hundreds of vehicles per hour exceeds the capacity of the parking lot and requires willful compliance on the attendees not to utilize the surrounding neighborhoods as overflow. Mr. Manganello gracefully illustrated this very concern when he came to speak to us on a Saturday afternoon by running over Mr. Bill Smo's stanchion at the end of his driveway. It was a good laugh for us all and quickly repaired, but multiplying this by an order of magnitude will quickly strain the community's sense of humor. Traffic control, considering the increased traffic flow and limited merge zones, we are asking the board to consider a traffic light at the intersection of Ruby and Braddock Road, and to consider converting the improved section of Sasher Lane to one-way traffic in the southbound direction to limit traffic through the Vinoy Acre and Lake Fairfax Estates neighborhoods. On the issue of site aesthetics, we urge the board to not only consider the large projects of similar nature in the area, but also to consider smaller per acre developments such as Braddock Missionary Baptist or Singh Sabha, the two closest developments of similar nature. We would request the board limit accessory structures such as minaret heights to other use maximums and consider material and barrier choices to limit the visual impact on the surrounding residential communities. That is all I have. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Do we have any other telephone speakers?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have two more speakers. I'll put Mr. Ebert Vasquez. Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, I'll swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth under penalty of the law?
Yes.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Welcome. Okay, I just worry about the traffic state. I live on 250 Blue Topaz. Even though you guys say you're gonna probably do a U-turn over there, cancellation. I mean, you're not gonna do U-turn over there, private U-turn. We still have issues because people tend to go inside our house, the first houses, and they just go into the parking lot and keep going. Right now, we had that issue, and if we get this temple bill, we're gonna have more issues because people go inside the Blue Topaz and turn over there on the driveways most of the time when they get and try to go to the other side. And also about the water issue, we have water issue even on that side. It's really in the especially on the summer, we don't have that much water. It's really dry. Also, the community being peaceful, we have a nice neighborhood, and with this disturbing, it's gonna be a little bit harder. I know, it's a good for the people, but the reason is all the peace that we have on the neighborhood is gonna be gone because my parents live on the other side, and they are gonna be the neighbors of the Islamic temple. So I just I don't agree. Even if you go to Sasher Lane, there's gonna be a congestion over there. Many kids walk on the street and they go, around in the morning, afternoons, and it's gonna be a little bit dangerous. It's gonna be dangerous for the kids with many cars. So also the accidents over there, close to the parkway, it goes frequently, especially on the night time, like 9, 10 o'clock. I see there is accidents going that way too. So it's a really concern bringing more, build a temple over there. So that's why I'm against it, and that's all my words.
Thank you. Next speaker, please.
Mr. Chairman, our next speaker is Ismael Vasquez. Mr. Vasquez, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth under penalty of the law?
Yes.
Okay.
Good. Mr. Chairman and everybody who's listening there, I'm the neighbor right behind the mosque. And I'm very sad because when I try to inquire about building a church, first of all, and I'm a pastor too, I'm doing good cause.
They told me that you have to have a lot that is on the corner, and there is a traffic light very close to there. Accidents occur over there. I went to George Mason. I graduated from George Mason in 1999. The traffic that comes to George Mason, all the students come in the morning and in the afternoon to classes on 66. And this is a problem. They said they were building something very small. I used to rent on Centerville Road, a little church, and I only have 40 members. And I got complaints for the neighbors. Complaint for the neighbors just for the noise and everything. What did I do? I bought the house next to it. They didn't allow me to do that. What they have done is bought 2 lots. They bought 2 lots so the BZA can give them a permit. And that's not allowed because if you go and drive over there, I ask you, Honor, to go and drive over there and you see our street is only 15 feet wide. When people are driving, when my neighbor's coming out, we don't have space. They said that they won't park over there. Right now, when they have the festivals, the temple right next to it, there's about 5 minutes over there where they could make the U-turn. They come and park over there. They park on the streets too, and they make a mess. And it's very hard. We had kids. I got 11 years old, and I got kids. I moved to this house back in 2007 when we built it. And it's very sad, my honor, that you guys consider to build something next to a big traffic light coming off 66. You're coming off 66 or Fairfax County Parkway, there's a bunch of accidents occur constantly. Even one guy driving a motorcycle crashed over there about 3 years ago. Well, they ask us, they say, we're going to give you $50,000. Each one needs to pay $60,000. We volunteered because the water over there is very dirty. We constantly have to put chemical to it. We don't have enough water for us. Even living people, they only say they're only allowed to have 7 people over there. This is very sad. The church over there on Route 7, they selling it for $7 million. Why? The mosque. Because they don't have enough parking space. You know, Your Honor, we're Christian people like they do. They are Muslim and we're Christians. And when it's time to festival, every pack. And sometimes we don't even care. We step over, and you see, if you drive on Charlie Gay Road, the mosque over there too, big traffic, park over there. You're forcing us with a 15-feet street. They're going to come over there. They don't ask. People don't care. They make a U-turn. They're going to come on such a lane. And when I turn on such a lane, I came and turned over there. I had to go on Ruby Drive. You have to. You can't build a church over there. Well, we won't have water. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I get the alarm from the deer. 3 o'clock, a special habit. Deer cross 3 o'clock in the morning. 11 o'clock, a family of deer is going to have to migrate somewhere else.
Mr. Vasquez, your red light is on. If you could sum up, please.
I ask you, if you consider that street very dangerous. They bought the 2 houses, and now they try to build bigger. Before they said a small house. It's going to be dangerous for the community, for the kids, and for the old people who walk over there. And my brother, we're going to get all this traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other phone speakers?
No, Mr. Chairman. We are done with all the speakers.
We're all done with the speakers in the room. All right, we will move to rebuttal. Mr. Manganello.
Yeah, thank you. So, I did talk to Mr. Vasquez, and apparently he tried to put his church on 12208 and was unable to, or backed out from buying that property because he only had the one property. The mosque has done what the county likes to do is consolidated 3 non-conforming lots to a conforming size. So that's I believe that's a positive for land use. We did address, the wells. That's been several of the comments that to convert a residential well to a commercial well, we have to get the state health department as well as the Fairfax Health Department. And unlike a residential well, they don't do drawdown tests. We will do a drawdown test. We will look at the impact to the neighborhood. And if there is an impact, believe me, the state will ask us to go deeper with the well or make changes that doesn't impact the neighborhood. Once again, I believe the use of the mosque will be 900 gallons per day. That's the limitation. and that's going to be analogous to 3 large houses that could be built by right. So I don't believe the water quantity is going to be an issue. We believe we placed the mosque in the exact place that would least impact Mr. Vasquez and the rest of the neighborhood. The mosque is 200 feet from his house. We saved a large tree stand that's next to Mr. Simos and Mr. Vasquez lot, and also from Sasher Lane, it'll be 200 feet, 300 feet long of an undisturbed wooded area. We're also going to be beefing up the buffers around the perimeter, and to the extent that's shown on our landscape plans, we believe that that's going to be sufficient, and planting additional trees within the parking lot. We have the site is well located next to a parkway and Braddock Road. The mosque will be one of 3, really 4 if you count the Sikh Visitor Center, in the intersection of the Braddock Road and the Fairfax County Parkway. We're one of 15 religious organizations along Braddock Road. So we believe it will fit into the neighborhood of what they call Church Row. So we believe the architecture will fit in nicely with the community. It's not going to be used constantly, so it's going to be a quiet user. The green roof, which we do, I don't know if we were able to show it. We can show a picture of it. Is absolutely going to be an aesthetic feature, and as well as a BMP feature for the site. And that'll be used for just small gatherings and individuals. So the nearest houses are 200 feet, 300 feet, and 430 feet away. We believe eliminating the Sasher Lane entrance and working off of the Braddock Road entrance is a positive to the neighborhood. We don't believe there'll be parking or drive through the neighborhood, and we will be willing to prepare, as Mr. Hart suggested, a parking plan, flyers, put it on the website, give it to new members, and hand that out. I've done that with many other schools and churches in the past. The fire protection will be provided by a water tank, and that'll be filled once. So the impact to the wells are not going to be permanent. Once it's filled, it's going to be a wet system or dry system, whatever is designed, and that'll also be scrutinized and approved by Fairfax County Fire Department and Water Authority. And also, in addition to the green roof and other green practices, we will be employing low-flow toilets and automatic shut faucets to save on water. We're going to agree to no irrigation, and we're going to try to reduce the amount of grass versus planting materials that can live without irrigation. And the site lighting will be LED, and there will be a couple of EV stations. So we believe that we have the right site and the right building, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Manganello, I had one question about what one of the speakers was saying. Is there some kind of outdoor noise or speakers or something? Is there something at 4:15 in the morning?
Absolutely not.
Nothing. No outdoor speakers. No nothing.
No.
Let me ask Mr. Krasner, Mr. McCadden. I thought sometimes have we said, no outdoor speakers, no amplified music, no nothing.
We've included similar conditions on other cases. If the board would like to include something like that, consistent with what the applicant just said, staff has no objection to that.
Okay, all right. Further questions for the applicant or staff? Final comments from staff? Nothing?
No, I'm sure the board, I don't know what direction the board is going, but if there's a deferral, then we'll
I will
provide whatever additional information the board's looking for.
All right, thank you. I will close the public hearing, recognize Ms. Ballo.
Thank you. I have a question for the applicant about the development conditions. So in addition to potentially additional development conditions that the board has discussed, would you also be open to perhaps an amendment for development condition number 13, where it says mosque parking on Braddock Road, Sasher Lane, to include no parking on Anderson and Ruby as well?
Yes, we would.
Thank you. I actually did have a quick question for them.
All right, we'll reopen the public hearing without objection. We'll finish the questions.
I'm so sorry. Could you detail really quickly, what are your fire suppression plans for the new building? Will it be sprinkled? Or
it's going to be sprinkled, yes, and there'll be a tank, hydrodynamic tank, or an above ground tank to supplement. Okay. So that'll be part of the well design, part of the site plan, and the water authority and the fire marshal is going to be reviewing and approving our propose.
Thank you, and I asked that as well because I was wondering if that perhaps needed another condition. A quick clarification. So, thank you. A quick clarification for the staff. The correct resolution for this is the old one. Is that correct? Because it was accepted prior to the ZMOD?
That is correct. This was accepted just prior to ZMOD.
Okay, thank you. So we'll see where this goes. I'm going to move that in application number SP 2020-SP-040 by the Islamic Seminary Incorporated under Section 3-C03 and 8-301 of the Fairfax County Zoning Ordinance to permit a place of worship, a religious assembly, located at 12208, 12212, and 12214 Braddock Road in Fairfax, Virginia. Tax map reference 67-1, double parentheses 1, 22, 23, and 24. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the following resolution. Whereas this captioned application has been properly filed in accordance with the requirements of all applicable state and county codes and with the bylaws of the Fairfax County Board of Zoning Appeals, and whereas following proper notice to the public, a public hearing was held by the board on today's date, April the 27th, 2022, and whereas the board has made the following findings of fact: that the owner of the property is the applicant, that the present zoning is RC and WS, and that the total area of the lot is approximately 6.65 acres, whereas the BZA has reached the following conclusions of law: that the applicant has presented testimony indicating compliance with the general standards for special use permits as set forth in Section 8-006, and the additional standards for this use as contained in other sections of the zoning ordinance outlined in the staff report. Now therefore be it resolved. I would like to move to approve this application. I appreciate all of the testimony received so far today, and I appreciate in particular the time and attention that the applicant took working with the staff on, it sounds like, multiple, site iterations and multiple iterations of your architecture. These special permits in the RC require particular care to minimize, avoid, and mitigate impact to the character of the surrounding area, to the natural environment, to the watershed, and we give all of that special consideration, and also the comprehensive plan requirements that the access for the use is oriented to an arterial roadway. So I'm going to go through each one of these in my recommendation for the approval and why I think the applicant has met that. So this is oriented towards Braddock Road, which is a minor arterial. I appreciate all of the again, the work that has gone into trying to make sure that the people who are visiting this facility, use the, the adjacent roadways appropriately. There is, I appreciate people might do what they're going to do, but there has been sufficient testimony, not just from this congregation, but also the people who currently share a facility with them on Cherokee Avenue in Alexandria, which I frequent that area a lot, and it is very congested, about what excellent neighbors they have been and the care that they already take to minimize impacts of their parking and the use of their congregation on that site. That the size and scale will not adversely impact the character of the area. Mitigating is not avoiding entirely, and looking through the staff report and hearing the testimony, the size of the minarets has already been reduced. And having these facilities in residential areas in the RC will not mean that you see nothing. What I do appreciate is that what will be visible will be beautiful. I really believe that. I think that the attention that has been given to the layout, that this is the best layout for the site. It has been, sited appropriately, pushed back as far as it can be. The minarets have been reduced. The entire architecture of this facility, with the variegated masonry banding, the use of color, the tiles, the way that the fenestration and the window openings are intentionally placed, there is no real rear of this building. All four sides, all four elevations have been designed harmoniously to have this one architectural vision in and of itself. And even the people that are driving by it on the road that see it will see something, I believe, that has been intentionally, crafted from all angles. So the renderings, I think, show that the applicant has done the best that they can and have succeeded, frankly, in minimizing the view sheds from the adjacent neighborhoods. As I said, this has been designed in the round. And then in terms of mitigating the impacts on the water quality of the Occoquan Reservoir, I am satisfied with their testimony about hiring a well consultant, complying with Fairfax County and state requirements and the tests that will be conducted. I am satisfied with the treatment of the existing structures on the site, that their storm water will be mitigated. And I also appreciate that they could have demolished existing buildings, potentially to, increase their open space, but they chose to adaptively reuse useful structures and keeping, waste out of the landfill and minimizing some of their construction impacts. I appreciate that as well. So for these reasons, I think that they have, met all of the requirements that we have in place to approve this special permit. I would, as part of my motion, suggest amendments to the development conditions for number 13. I would propose, as part of my approval, which we'll see if it gets a second in a vote, to amend number 13 to require the creation of a parking management plan to be, we'll say, to be reviewed like at the time of site plan, and to require on-site traffic controls for special events, for weddings, for funerals, and for special holiday events. And also, as part of 13, to add Anderson and Ruby to the roads where parking would be prohibited at all times. I would also add a condition to prohibit the use of outdoor speakers, PA systems, or live music outdoors. And all of that concludes my motion.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Tanner.
Actually, I do agree with all of the recommendations and the justification that Ms. Ballard had brought up to. I especially like the adjustments to development condition 13, because it addressed a lot of the concerns that I had in terms of the traffic, the flow, and parking in the other outsiding neighborhoods. I do appreciate you put site plan as a good form, like a timeline, so that we have a target, as opposed to something that's just kind of ambiguous. So I do appreciate all those changes, and I will be supporting this motion as well. Thank you.
I'm close, but one of the things that I think I've learned in however many years is that non-residential applications in the RC are to be rigorously reviewed. And if we're not under the gun, if we're not under a deadline, and once in a while we are, I haven't heard that we are on this, I think a short deferral to polish some development conditions might improve the application and address some of the objections that we've heard today. I would prefer to review the wording of the changes to 13 and the new condition. It may be something also that between staff and the applicant that they may come up with something that maybe resonates a little better than just on the wing. But the things that I agree with adding the condition about the parking management plan and the no parking on the other couple streets. But I'd like to see the wording of that rather than just an abstract suggestion of it. The outdoor noise and the speakers, I think we have wording from that on other cases, but I think I'd be more comfortable if both sides could see it. We had a discussion about, and I was thinking on 16, something about putting in the bulletin and letting the folks know for the weddings or special events or whatever about driving down to Willow Springs or whatever it is they're supposed to do to get back to the parkway, and the wording of that. I would like to see something, and I lost my place here, about the landscaping, the plantings in the green roof structures be, I'm assuming they're going to be approved at the time of site plan, but that they be maintained in good condition. There's a typo in 22. I think it's extent is the word in the first line. And I was hoping also that we might get with a phone call or something to environmental staff, just a little more information about wetlands and why we were able to determine with essentially the same raw data that there were wetlands down on Pope's Head and the Parkway, but we don't know about this, or we can't know, or at least I'm still not understanding that disconnect. And the same thing about the species. It sounds like the applicant didn't do any analysis of what might be present on the site, and maybe there's some mitigation technique to mitigate impacts on the reservoir. One of the resources that we have is some of the places in the RC are habitat for certain species that we would want to protect. We had some testimony about owls. I don't know if owls are on the list, but I do remember there have been other cases in the RC where we certainly have had either turtles near a stream or a stream bed, and bats in the trees, and I think that there was potential habitat for bats nearby. And I went through an ordeal. This doesn't apply to this site necessarily, but with bats in my house and trying to extract them in an environmentally permissible and responsible way without traumatizing them, and however that's done. There may be species, there may be habitat for things particularly in that that rectangle at the upper left, but that might be, the mitigation might be addressed in a development condition if there's something to protect. And it didn't sound to me like that question had necessarily been asked. And I thought, well, maybe if there were a deferral, and I don't know if there's, 4 votes to do what, but in any event, I will say that places of worship are embedded in residential neighborhoods throughout the county. And our job is to, if we're going to approve them, and we usually do, is to try and identify what impacts they're going to have on the neighbors. And sometimes they're pretty obvious. And to do the best job that we can to try and mitigate those impacts through appropriate development conditions. I think we're close, but I think we can polish it up a little bit and get closer. So I guess I don't want to say I'm going to vote no, but I'd be more comfortable if we took a little more time with the development conditions. Further discussion on the motion. Ms. Day.
I don't have a problem pushing or deferring it because it is a big project, but I also don't have an issue with moving forward, and that it's going to undergo review for the stormwater issues. I guess I was able to see a distinction between this and the last, that Pope's Head case, as to the wetlands issue. This one didn't show up the same on the maps for me. But given that, so I don't know about the owls and stuff like that. I think that the development conditions have built in different points where this is going to be reviewed by specialists. The health department as onto the water, or the well rather. It's got the best management or best practices in the stormwater management. So I was, and then Ms. Ballo amended her proposed amendment to the development conditions to further address the traffic concerns. And the fact that this has been going on for some time, staff and the applicant have been working together for a long time. It's been deferred several times before even coming to us, which I think spruced, for lack of a better word, up the application that was presented. So I would support the motion.
Further discussion. Mr. Amanoff?
No, I'm with Ms. Day as well. I would not be opposed to a brief deferral to get the conditions correct.
I guess I'm not sure what wording we're voting on a couple of these, and I thought, well, maybe we could maybe try and amend again if we have to do something today, but we're stuck with this for however many years if we don't get it perfect today. And I guess, I mean,
Okay.
Well, I'll shut up.
Ms. Ballo, how are you?
Ms. Ballo.
So, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair, and I appreciate everybody's feedback on this. I can propose specific language. Some additional specific language for the development conditions, and we'll see how everybody feels about it. So as a simpler one, I would propose an additional separate condition that would state all plantings in the green roof must be maintained at all times in good condition, in addition to any other provisions that may be required for maintenance of the green roof by the site plan. That would be one. I would, again, for condition 13, for specific language, the applicant will create a parking management plan to require, at a minimum, on-site traffic flow management, including on-site security for all weddings, funerals, and major holidays, and such plan will include other provisions as approved at the time of site plan. Further to amend, I guess to clarify what I had said before, mosque parking on Braddock Road, Sasher Lane, if it's Anderson Road, or Anderson and Ruby, if it's road or lane, whatever, and or unpaved surfaces on site is prohibited at all times. No outdoor speakers, PA systems, or live music will be permitted on site, will be permitted out of doors on site. And that's one we've heard many times before. I guess I would propose those as more specific language, hopefully to address the vice chairs or other people's concerns about this. And I would align myself, I think, with the comments of Ms. Day about the distinction about, you know, any wetland issues or any species issues. So I guess I would amend my recommendation for approval with those specific language, with that specific language for the conditions, and I continue to recommend approval at this time.
The seconder accept?
Second.
Okay. Let me suggest another amendment to 13, that we add the Fairfax County Parkway to the list so there's not parking along the exit ramp. And does the seconder accept that as well?
Yes. Yes, I accept.
And that on 16, that there be another sentence about, and I'm before I start dictating, the point of that is that the applicant is going to notify everybody about the U-turn methodology, you know, something like that. The applicant, I guess I better dictate, the applicant must notify the congregation and special events guests of the U-turn prohibition and preferred route to return to the Fairfax County Parkway period. Now, Mr. Krasner, is there more to say about that?
I mean, I guess that's fine. I think it achieves what the board's looking to do. I mean, you don't say how they're going to notify them, but I assume that means all means of communication, so that's fine.
Okay. Is that another friendly amendment?
Yes.
Second accept.
Accepted.
Further discussion on the motion. And Mr. Manganello, with all this editing we're doing, is the applicant still on board?
Yes, yeah, we accept those additional development conditions.
All right, thank you. Further discussion on the motion. Seeing none, we will move to a vote. Let's do a roll call vote, please.
Board Member Aminoff?
Aye.
Board Member Ballo?
Aye.
Board Member Day?
Aye.
Vice Chairman Hart?
Aye.
Board Member Tanner?
Aye.
It's a vote of 5 ayes, 0 nays.
All right, thank you. The motion carries. The application is approved. Staff, do we need another? Yeah, we'll take a second break for a few minutes. We'll stand in recess.